presented today.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving us this opportunity. I'm Phil Shephard. I'm Professor Emeritus from Michigan State University. I'm here today because, like so many others who are present, I care about our democracy. I spent most of my life working to preserve and improve our democracy. Now, in evaluating HB5994, my message for you today can be put quite simply in 3 words. Context, context, context. House Minority Leader Tim Grimel, speaking of this bill, put it this way, quote, "Doing it in states like Michigan that tend to vote Democratic in presidential elections and not doing it in states that vote Republican in presidential elections will still rig the overall system in favor of Republicans." The context, I submit, is really quite clear. National Republicans, backed by hundreds of millions of dollars of dark money, are campaigning now to split the Electoral College vote in many states that usually vote for the other party for president. My understanding, they include, of course, Michigan, but also Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Now, those are just the ones that are slated right now. The result, if this is achieved while Republican-leaning states remain winner-take-all, is also quite clear. Only impossibly extreme majorities in the popular vote could ever award the presidency to any non-Republican. Moreover, as others have and will testify, in fact, in addition to Representative Shore, I side with Professor Benson, Professors Grossman, Sharon Delente, Ms. Hammond, Mr. Nappo, and Walt Sorg on this. It is entirely bogus to claim that splitting the Electoral College vote will attract presidential campaigns and advertising money to Michigan. To the contrary, this measure would have the opposite effect. Potential Electoral College winnings would be a net gain realistically of only 2 to 8 votes. That is at most half the present value. This would sufficiently dilute any candidate's win that the incentive to campaign here would be much less than under the present winner-take-all rule. I think Representative Grimel had it right. The proposal taken in context can mean only one thing, that national Republicans are so intent on rigging presidential elections to their partisan advantage that they are quite happy to throw out a Michigan election law that has stood for 178 years so that Republican presidential candidates will be elected regularly by a shrinking minority of voters. This, of course, conserves neither Michigan's electoral tradition nor its democratic values. In fact, taken in context, the proposal makes clear that certain Republicans are quite happy to throw out democratic process and democracy in order to ensure their minority rule for decades. As is well known to all present, Republicans have already in Michigan gerrymandered the state legislature and federal House districts along with those of 20 plus other states so thoroughly that, for example, this November, a majority who voted in Michigan for federal House of Representatives voted for Democrats, but 9 out of 13 Michigan House seats went to Republicans. This is what our election math has come to. In the last election, a vote for a Republican candidate for House of Representatives was worth more than twice a vote for a Democratic candidate. This state of affairs greatly weakens democracy in Michigan. Context makes the implications of the present measure especially bold. The proposal comes from a party that hasn't hesitated to suppress voters by any means they can get away with. A party that didn't hesitate to use a phony legal pretext to overturn the will of a majority of voters who rejected emergency managers. And they did this in a closed session where they thought they could get away with it. A party that doesn't hesitate to manipulate election outcomes through electronic voting if they think they can get away with it. And a party that is most happy to unleash billions of dollars of marked money for campaigns that will publicize any lie that might work if they think they can get away with it. All of these have weakened democracy in Michigan. Indeed, it may be dying if the confidence of the people is any measure. Use Michigan to rig the presidential elections, and our democracy will be quite dead indeed. What some members of this legislature may not realize is that the continued pursuit of these measures has and will continue to shut down any meaningful recourse to elections. Let me be more blunt. Michigan Republicans, you are destroying electoral democracy in Michigan. Keep it up, and there will be very large consequences. But they might not be the ones you were hoping for. You may need to keep in mind that democracy is not simply anything that involves voting. Real democracy requires that the will of the people, a majority of the people, can affect desired changes in government. When the will of the people is systematically blocked, say by an oligarchy masquerading as something else, the people's will find other ways to express itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you very much for coming up. Next, I'd like to call